Welcome to another Kings of War Battle Report. Mega Battle. Team Tennessee versus the Kentucky Headhunters. 3,000 points. The scenario was control. So when Mike Marco and Jim Livers came down for Kentucky, we had to have a Tennessee versus Kentucky battle. It just had to be. And so I told them to bring some 1,500 point list, and we would just, try to even it up as much as possible. Well, we had a couple of guys drop out, and then Sean wasn't feeling well, so he went out home to keep from spreading contagion to the rest of us. And then, so that left us with 5 people. So Team Tennessee divided into 3 armies. We had my friend Carl Cannon's Dwarfs, my friend Craig Borneman's Salamanders, and we had my Abyssals, which is a weird alliance, but that really matter for these games. So then the the Kentucky Headhunters had Jim Livers and Mike Marco. They had Goblins and the League of Rhordia to oppose the onslaught of Team Tennessee. The plan for Team Tennessee was kind of an echelon plan. We were going to have Carl with his Dwarfs, since they were so slow but very solid, to hold our right flank for us to keep them from getting into Craig's flank so he could move up with impunity. Excuse me. Craig was checkerboarded up with salamander hordes and lots of geckos, and one of the gecko units had the hammer measured force, so it was going to be able to deal maybe with Mike's mincers that were over there with the armor 6. Now over on my flank, I had just painted some lower abyssals, and I just painted some flame bears. I couldn't wait to use them, so I had to put them on the table, along with my Abyssal Guard and Abyssal Fiend, and I had to have Bale because he's one of my favorite models in that army, even though it's a lot of points for a 2,000 point game. He's not, or a 1,000 point game. He's not that expensive. He's not like 300 and something point model, but I had to have him nonetheless because I just really like using him. Now, Mike and Jim had a different approach, and they went ahead and meshed their armies together. So down here on this end, we have Jim's cavalry leading 2 hordes of rabble, I believe, and a light cavalry unit. In the middle, we had Jim's pike horde. I think these were actually the Dogs of War pike horde, which are some tough customers, along with 2 ballistas from the Goblin army. Then I believe they had the mincers and the giant to try to punch out our middle, followed by 2 hordes of rabble. Then I want to say the next unit was some pole arms, and then on the hill or behind the hill, I think we had some halflings, and then a unit of scouts with black powder weapons. And then I know that's a unit of halflings that's here on the hill in front of me, and then a horde of pikemen, and I believe there was something else, but I'll have to look in a minute. My plan was to use Bale to kind of turn their lines and come back toward the middle. So I had a unit of gargoyles there, or harpies, I guess. I don't know what they are. Gargoyles. And I was going to use those just to suicide into his archers and stuff, because turns out he had a pretty decent shooting phase and opposite of me. But what I had done is also I put my shooting phase opposite of Jim and was ready to go. I know what he had. He had a unit of wolf riders, cavalry, whatever they are, in front of Jim's horde of pikemen. I couldn't figure out what that unit was, but now it makes sense what it is. And then I had Bale and the flame bears as my base of fire. Onto the right, I stuck my Abyssal Guard to protect Craig's flank with those guys. And I think they had a unit of imps too, and they were just to sell their souls for a turn, to somebody who needs it. So somewhere through the early turns, my camera died, and so I had to switch over to my cell phone camera, which actually I think was taking better pictures. So you can see here on this end that I just moved the lower abyssals up. Bale kept sitting there in the woods, just clinging away, helping the flame bears to chop off his guys. I killed the light cavalry unit pretty easily in one round, And then over the next 2 turns, I put 12 wounds on his pikeman unit with those 2. So all Jim could really do was he couldn't be really aggressive with them after that. I'd already suicided the gargoyles into the halfling shooters at this point, but they had already managed to take off my Abyssal Fiend in 1 round. I was not happy about that. I was just hoping to get up there and keep protecting Craig's flank. So when Mike's mincers went slamming into our army, I had to move up with the Abyssal Guard and the Imps to protect his flank. I couldn't let Jim get a pinch on him up there and start doing bad things to him. Now over on the right-hand side where Carl was he was doing excellent with his army to keep them. I mean, there was no way that I was actually worried about whether I could hold the flank over here to help Craig, but Carl's help on the flank was amazing. He just was like a bastion over there, solid wall of dwarves, and goblins, they suck at fighting anyway, so there's really no reason for them to go up there and scramble with all those stupid dwarves. Okay, I'm not sure of the turn count or anything, but early in this game, I realized the opportunity of that tower, whether Bale could peek out of one side of it or the other. And in this case, his pikeman had went ahead and charged the lower Abyssals, and I wiped him out. I think Gale had actually charged him immediately, and he had turned around and was going back. This may be later in the game. But the lower Abyssals took easy revenge on the pikeman, and now Jim's flank was kind of hanging over there, so he sent, I guess it was a mounted hero or a general over there to steady the halfling hordes that are up on the hill. As it's often the case in kind of small battles, things like an armor 6 unit of mincers just is very difficult to deal with because you really don't have the tools you normally do in your army. And it's something that people say all the time, is that some games aren't really designed for certain things, at a small scale. And in this case, we have Craig's Salamander Primes still fighting the stupid mincers and I guess a unit of Jim's polearms. I'd already lost all of my contingent. My Abyssal Fiend had got shot off the hill by the halflings and halfling sergeant, and then the hero that you see going back over to the tower had killed off my swarms, and I think the charge from the halberdiers and the hero had actually killed my Abyssal Guard. So my ability to protect Craig's flank was not very good. But Craig already had he was moving forward in the middle of charging into these goblin hordes and trying to reduce that. Because we're playing controller, we need to get into that square over there with the most unit strength to take it out. Over on the right flank, we had the fun of Carl's Earth Elementals charging into the pike unit, and there's no way that pike unit was going to kill that Earth Elemental horde. So that we were in good shape to keep that unit pushed back into that corner, while Carl's 3 hordes moved into the other side of the table. He left one just kind of slightly in the back here to maintain that quarter as well, or that third as well. So we're pushing them back steadily across the table, except maybe over on my side where I've been brutalized by the Kentuckians. The impetuous halflings decided to charge off the hill. I bounced off his stupid goblin hero, didn't do enough wounds to hurt him, and then just rolled really, really bad. And then so that allowed the halflings to attack me in the flank. Well, bad thing for them is that they're not very good either. So then I was able to turn and obliterate them with my lower Abyssals. So I was in good shape there. What I did, though, too, was I turned the flame bearers back around just in case I didn't kill them so that I could shoot them down. In the meantime, Bale did a big jump over the top, and now I'm looking at the back of all those stupid units of that we could get rid of, the mincers and the polearms that Jim had charged into Craig's Salamander Primes. So yeah, over here on the right flank, we continued to put pressure. Eventually, the Goblins had to come out and fight Craig's. I mean, not Craig's. They had to come out and start fighting some of Carl's guys to keep them from flooding that side of the table. The Earth Elementals held out really well, of course, against the pikemen for good reason. I mean, the pikemen are going to have a difficult time hurting them. And there really wasn't any Bane chant on this whole table, I don't think. Craig's first unit, Craig's Salamander Primes, had already wiped out one unit of Goblin Rabble, and now he was working on the second unit of Goblin Rabble and trying to push through there. I think that we had debated something early in the game about charging Mike's Giant, and I think that the Giant did some damage, but I think the organ gun is what we used to take out the Giant and get it off the table. So yeah, the Mincers and the Giant in the middle were dead now finally. And so now Jim was using his pole arms and his general, I think, on a horse to hold up Craig's Salamander Prime horde from moving into the other side of the table. I can't really say enough about Carl's efforts over here on the right flank. It was superb, especially compared to the pale imitation of my attempt on the left flank. So here his bulwarkers have engaged this unit of goblins, and now the ironclad horde, even though they are hindered, comes slamming into the flank with 50 attacks. I don't predict things are going to go well for the Night Goblins at this stage. He just has this unit of ironclad down here that's just holding this section for us so that we don't leave it behind. So Craig has the same problem that I've had, facing the massive attacks of the Kentuckians, that the Kentuckians have now submitted their reserve of halflings into Craig's Salamander Prime unit. And and over in the middle, the other Goblin horde continues to struggle to beat. Goblins are not going to beat Salamander Primes. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you'd have to roll out your rear end to make anything good come out of that. So yeah, the halflings are fighting the lower Abyssals. I'm sure that's not going to go very well for them. Lower Abyssals aren't fantastic, but they do have Crushing 1, and they do regenerate. I'd already used my regeneration up. I mean, one time I think I was up to way more wounds than that, and then really got lucky and dumped them right back down. So I think Bale up there is eyeballing that unit of halflings that went down the hill. The halfling sergeant is valiantly trying to shoot Bale in the rear end with his tiny little bow. Yeah, as the door closes on this grim scene, you can see that the halflings have succumbed to the lower Abyssals, and the lower Abyssals have turned toward to take that section of the table over there. Bad thing is I didn't leave anything behind me. Yeah, I did. My my flamers were back there to hold that section, so I was good to go there. Bale finally did flex his muscles and charged in to the flank of the halflings that were fighting the salamanders, and they died horribly. Craig finally finished off the polearms, so now that unit's gone. There was a stalemate over there still with the salamanders and the goblins. It just couldn't get through them in enough turns. But the Carl rolled some excellent dice, and the Earth Elementals had slaughtered the pikemen, and now they were free to move into the section and take it for the Army of Tennessee. And then over on the right flank, Carl had both sections over there on that end. So we had two sections down here. That's two. We retained the middle one where Craig's army was with that horde there. We outnumbered them on the middle. So let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we got all 7 in this game. I may be wrong. I just have to, because it was a few days ago, but a resounding victory for the men of Team Tennessee over the Kentucky Headhunters. In a game this big with 5 players, you really can't do a proper battle report as far as a turn-by-turn, blow-by-blow. But we just did this game to have fun. I had told them that after we'd played some games early in the day that it'd be fun after supper to have a mega battle. And we threw down with this, and it was just so much fun. I had more fun doing this than I had anything on the weekend, despite the fact that Jim picked on me. I just want to point that out because most of my guys were gone at the end of the game because of the amount of firepower and stuff that Jim had quite a bit of shooting with his halflings and his scouts, and so they took my they took my Abyssal Fiend down like on the first turn. Never used in the model before, and there he was gone. It was the new painted model blues, and then they shot, like I said, they shot most of our army down. But on the other hand, since I had that tower to divide, I shot most of his army down over there on that side, and eventually got it all. So I was pretty happy about that. Craig just kind of kept pushing back the middle. We had the real trouble with the Giant and the Mincer because we didn't have a ton of crushing. We didn't have any Bane Chant, and the armor 6 was really confounding. And plus, we were just making really low morale rolls. I mean, we should have been able to get through them pretty quick, but I mean, it wasn't like that. It wasn't we were real snake eyes, but we weren't rolling real well, like 3s and 4s and stuff. Even though we had that regiment up to a significant number, but they did hold up our whole middle. The Giant and the Mincers did. Carl just caved in the other flank. I mean, it wasn't even close. He just blew right through everything over there. And there were some excellent units there on that side as well. So our plan worked to perfection. I mean, we kind of thought that Carl would be our hinge, but it turned out that Carl was the one that pressed into the other side of the table. And I pressed in on this left-hand side with the one unit I had left in Bale plus the Flamers, and then and Craig just kind of forced his way through the middle eventually because I think he was facing the nastiest part of their army, and so our plan worked great. I don't know about the plan of splitting things up between different armies, but it did serve to hold us back because of some key hard points such as the Knights over on the other flank, and then of course the Mincer and Giant protected by units of the League of Rhordia, and also fighting over that giant pile of rocks in the middle. You know, that probably didn't help anybody's chance to hit for a while. But anyway, it was a fun game. I really wish we would have had an even number of players. When Sean left, I was thinking, hey, we could put him on Team Kentucky because his parents live in Kentucky. So I mean, that would make the most sense. And have three 1,500 point armies and just have a real gala. I thought maybe if I did 1,500 points, I'd push another table in, but not use all of it because I really think that if you get to that over 4,000 point, you need at least a couple more feet of table to make that a viable game and have a little bit of fun with it. But we did have other tables we could have shifted over. It's no big deal. So, but it turned out we played it the way we did at 3,000 points, and even then you could see the table was full of models. And it always is fun for me when you see games like this is all the nice painted models on the table. Not a single unpainted model on this table. Now, some of mine weren't quite as based as all these other guys, but anyway, they were still all painted and ready to go. So just really enjoyed having Mike and Jim come down, putting up with all of our crap, and we all had a great time this weekend between playing games and eating and just hanging out together, and just love to do it again. And hopefully we'll figure out some time maybe in the spring to do it again and have another excellent time.